Today on The Why and the Buy, we've got Nick Ruiz.
Living life on your own terms with your own stake in the ground just is going to make you a happier person.
Hi, Christie.
Hi, Jeff.
We're recording now.
The many hours of conversation you and I have had, we've had probably half of them that haven't been recorded.
You know what we should do? We should start a podcast.
You think? Let's call it The Why and the Buy.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Christie Walters with The Why and the Buy, and I'm here with my friend Jeff Bajorek, as usual. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Christie, how are you?
I'm good. So we've got Nick Ruiz with us today, and Nick is not only a twice-made millionaire, and we'll get into why it's twice in a second, but he is also a twice-published author. So this is your second book, Nick, and if I'm correct, it launched today on July 18th, which is the day that we're recording, and it's called Success from Scratch: Mental Strategies for Success in a Survival of the Fittest Environment. So very excited to have Nick with us. Welcome.
Well, I appreciate it, Christy and Jeff, by the way. Thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity to be on and talk to you guys about all these beautiful things relating to success, entrepreneurship, et cetera. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, before you thank us, give us an opportunity to grill you and put you on the spot here, because success from scratch. Now, hold on. There's a lot of people out there, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're just a salesperson, maybe you're a sales manager starting a new job. Success from scratch covers a lot of ground here, Nick. So, I mean, natural selection. You mentioned Darwin. I mean, come on.
I do.
This is the 21st century. We're still talking about Darwin. Where are we going with this?
We're talking about Darwin because biologically and physiologically, and our brains are the same as they were thousands of years ago. And I think people forget that. Like we just were dressed up in nice clothes and drive BMWs and have, screens with all these cool things in front of us. But the reality is I really compare the business environment, the success environment, to Darwinian evolution. Like my subtitle, Mental Strategies for Success in a Survival of the Fittest Environment. Listen, I didn't create the fact that we're in a survival of the fittest environment. I'm not necessarily happy it's 100% Darwinian capitalism, but it is. So I choose to evolve accordingly. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes. And my story highlights it crystal clear. But if you look at everyone else's story and how they've succeeded, they might not have looked at it through this exact lens that I see it through, but it's the way it happened. The economy is nature. So the brown bears, they go into the tundra, the white, the snow, everywhere else. The ones that genetically mutated into white, nature rewarded. The ones who stayed brown, nature eliminated. The business and success environment is the same way, except the economy on a macro scale, or your industry, is nature. And if you don't evolve, it will eliminate you. As badass as you may have been from today and past and you could have made $10 million last year. What you did means nothing. What's happening in the current environment in the landscape is changing more now than at any other scale. And you either evolve and get rewarded by the economy, AKA nature, in my comparison and analogy, or you get eliminated. And it is just that simple. There's just it's very binary. Evolve and win, or don't evolve and think you're a badass for all the things you've accomplished and wave your decorated shirt, in the air. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how good you were. And I say that with such clarity because of how my story went, which is creating millions in real estate. Big crash of 2008. Most of you listening know what happened in 2008. It was a truly devastating scenario. It wasn't like a market correction. Like, it was a big, big, big deal. And almost everyone I know that was killing it in the past got washed out of the game. I mean, there was $50 billion banks that went closed. I mean, Lehman Brothers, my God, they're 140-year-old bank. 2008 wiped out a 140-year-old bank. Like, it was a big deal. So, but when you evolve and adapt, things change and change in the positive direction. So that's kind of how I correlate Darwin to all of this, which we're living in Darwinian capitalism, period.
Yeah, I love that description. And a lot of people, that's still so fresh in our minds. It's less than a decade old.
Yep.
We all felt that experience in 2008 to varying degrees. So tell me what was different for you then the second time around. So you're really devastated after you come out of this crash. You've got to kind of pull your boots back on and start over. What was different about that for you?
Well, and let me tell you this too, like people call devastating has a spectrum. Like everyone felt it differently. Like, remember, I was in the industry that like spearheaded this whole dive down. You know, I was in the front seat of the roller coaster. You know what I mean? Where you're going ding, 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 ding up. Like I was right there. It was mortgage and real estate. That started, and then the stock market and many other industries and things followed, but mortgage, housing, real estate, which I was immersed in. I mean, I was, and again, just for people listening, I went bankrupt. Like I literally filed bankruptcy after this crash. So nothing prepares you for that kind of storm. Like you can read, you can do this, you can listen to podcasts. I mean, I tell people I've been listening to Tony Robbins since I was a teenager when he was on cassette tapes. Like I know the like strategies behind like getting out of tough situations, but when you're actually in the eye of the storm, it is different. There actually is nothing truly that can prepare you totally, you know, but it had the foundation in my head. And, you know, I had a pity party. I was depressed, miserable, hated people, ran into the corner. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was a prick. Like it was not a healthy situation. Like the money, because again, my identity as an entrepreneur, as entrepreneurs in general, we a lot of times intertwine our identity with our career and our vocation. It's just like it's just how entrepreneurship goes. You don't like punch out at 5. Like you're just an entrepreneur as like a person almost. So when all that comes trailing down, you look like a schmuck. I felt like a total schmuck because I was the young guy that was killing it and everyone asked for advice. Now I'm bankrupt. Like, what does that make Nick? You know, and that was an unhealthy situation for me for a while. But I realized that the resources are inside of human beings. Creating success has nothing to do with where you come from. It has nothing to do with if your mom has, you know, 100,000 to give you. None of that matters. You can have 0, nothing. Okay. So I evolved. I changed a lot of my strategies that worked prior and did not work moving forward. And I evolved and adapted quickly. And now I'm doing better than ever after that. And that is strictly because of conscious evolution. Okay.
So you talk about mindset, and I think that sales begins and ends with mindset. The career of sales begins and ends with mindset, and entrepreneurship very closely tied to that as well. So where you were at after the crash, after filing bankruptcy, you're at the lowest of your low point. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is fair to say, with credit to you, is fair to say is a lower point than most of the people listening right now.
Without a doubt.
The mindset and the approach that you take to that mindset are going to be immensely valuable to anybody listening to this podcast. How did you begin to claw your way back out? Why did you just not go work for somebody to never have to go through that again? I mean, you've experienced the highs, you've experienced the lows. Oh my God, can I just get some stability, right? That's how most people feel, myself included, when things are either going really, really well and you don't know what's going to happen. That's anxiety inducing. And when things are going terribly, it's depression inducing. And a lot of times we just need a rudder on the boat, right? What made you, one, decide that you could do it again and that you were going to do it again? And then what were the steps you took to put your mindset and get your mind right so that you could actually do it?
Yeah, well, first of all, what's nice about being completely backed against the wall, and bankruptcy will do that to you, is you have a built-in sense of urgency where you're forced to do things. One thing I do believe about human beings is we do what we have to do more than we do what we should do or would, you know, like, I mean, that's why personal trainers exist. Like you're going to do 10 bench presses, but when you have a guy busting your chops behind you to do 3 more, you're going to do 3 more because you have to. He's not letting you get off the bench until you push the last 3 reps. And by the way, on a side note, the beauty of those last 3 reps, that's where like most of your growth comes from. And I'm no fitness expert, but people, when you're backed up against the wall, you have to make moves. I had a family to support, et cetera. You know, so I had no choice but to make drastic moves. And I think that's urgency is key. You know, I'd say for people who, I don't wish that event upon anybody. So I'd say for people really need to start obsessing. Like everyone, there's a fluffy concept out there like called abundance, and like just wake up and see all these abundant things and look at your vision board with a mansion and a house and a Ferrari and blah, blah, blah. Like I've never operated from that psychology. And for me, it's extremely healthy. I actually look at things from the, what's my life going to be like in a year if I don't do X, Y, and Z? Like I obsess over like the what ifs on the negative side. And I mean, And I'm going to tell you something. Fear is a bigger motivator than desire. 100%. Like we operate out of fear first. And that's where I like going back to primal humans, because I'm obsessed with like primal instinct, primal humans. And that goes into some other concepts. But fear motivates us a lot more than like going for a goal. So I'm like, damn, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, like this is what my life's going to look like. And I remind people, like, your life is going to look identical to, if you're listening to this podcast, first of all, you're probably not at the point because you're trying to grow and learn. Like I just kept obsessing over like, this can never happen again. I got to go 1,000%. I will never let this happen to me or my family again. And I put the full gas pedal. But again, if you're not going through this, something is devastating, which I hope you're not. You have to obsess over how painful your life will be if you don't make the proper moves. And it's just a mindset shift of just obsessing over scarce. I wake up every day like I'm starving. I mean, and that may, again, and here's the thing, success advice is like a diet. You eat peanut butter, it gives you anaphylactic shock and kills you. I eat peanut butter and it makes me sharp, mentally focused, protein, ambitious, hungry. That's the problem. A lot of material out there, these are the 10 steps to success. I just, wake up, do this, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you're not a morning person. My God, sometimes I wake up at 9 a.m. It doesn't matter, okay? Success advice, everyone has their unique evolutionary success process. And I think it's dangerous to say these are the 10 things that get you to success, because if someone doesn't do those things, they'll think, well, I guess I'm just not going to be one of those successful few. Anybody can be successful. But I wake up every day and I do a deal, it's like the last deal I'll ever do. That's just how I operate. And I think that gives me an edge because I fight for every nickel and every opportunity that like it's my last freaking thing. And when you go through bankruptcy, 2008, people think, oh, that's, 9 years ago. Not to me, it's not. To me, it's a second ago, and I got to operate accordingly. Seriously.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love the concept of you need tension and pressure in the system in order to function effectively at the top level. Yeah. And we've talked about that quite a bit in varying forms on this podcast, but it's so true. I mean, it really does make a big difference in whether or not you're willing to make those extra 5 or 6 prospecting calls each day, as opposed to kind of saying, oh, well, I hit my 10 or 40 or 50, whatever that number is for you.
Comfort is poisonous to success.
Yeah.
Comfort is the actual like cyanide or, arsenic to your success. I really believe that. Like getting comfortable will poison you. Ooh. And it's very dangerous.
Yeah, that one's going on the tweetable list.
Good.
I like it. So tell me about rough draft moves. Yeah. What does that mean?
Rough draft moves. I have like 20 some concepts in my book, Success from Scratch, but this how rough draft moves change everything. This is one of my core theses. It's a bullet on the cover of the book for a reason. It's one of the things I attribute the majority of my rapid success to. Like things I've been approaching have just been becoming successful very quickly and exponentially. And it's because of rough draft moves. There's 2 kinds of analysis in this world, I believe. There's pre-action analysis and there's post-action analysis. Okay. Most people are in pre-action analysis. I got a whiteboard behind me. They whiteboard till the end of time. They have spreadsheets. They predict this. Well, once we do this, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, step 1, they have the 10 steps they're going to do. Well, what if you get whacked in the face at step 3? One of my favorite quotes is Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. That's why this 10 steps to success nonsense doesn't work. Because at step 3, you might get annihilated with an uppercut. Now, what are you going to do? You can't even see step 4. You're way over there, like laying down. So my point is, rough draft moves is like, don't figure it all out. In fact, analyze pre-action analysis. You're analyzing imagination. All the stuff on your whiteboard that you think is genius, all the things you do in the lab that you think is genius, it's all imaginary. It's just neurons in different people's heads doing things. Rough draft moves is make a move towards something, like a very rough move. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. And what happens is most of that move is probably garbage. 90% of it is junk. Get rid of it. Stupid. I stuttered. I said the wrong stuff. I called that prospect and oh my God, I want to slap my face after I hung up the phone. We're talking sales over here. That guy probably thought I was a total schmuck. But guess what? Even if 1% of that first sales call you make, we'll talk first sales calls. Everyone does it. The best salespeople in the world made their first call one day. Like, understand that. And they messed up most stuff. And the point is, 1% of that call, you're like, oh my God, but you know what? After all that nonsense, this one thing actually kind of worked. I kind of like it. I'm going to try that on the next one. That's a rough draft move. Now you have a seed. Even if it's 1%, hopefully it's more, but even if it's 1%, you did good. Then you take that 1%, you make another rough draft move, and then you stutter less. You figure out that when the prospect says this and you said that, it worked. It was confirmed. Or if it didn't work, it's eliminated. What that is it's called post-action analysis. What you're analyzing is actual real-world data. That happened. Like, that's what you're supposed to be analyzing. What actually happened in existence, not what's in your head imagining what could happen. So when you analyze what's in existence and your close wake behind you, you start growing quickly and you start really moving forward fast. Like, the most successful people in the world operate this way. They don't call it rough draft moves. That's just what I coined it. But that's how it worked. Believe me, anyone who's standing on a pillar of success, that's what they've been doing regularly since they started. I guarantee it. It's not debatable.
One of my favorite sayings, quotes, whatever you want to call it, is that anxiety is experiencing failure in advance.
I love that. Actually, that's
yes.
I might steal that. That is right. That's correct.
I stole it. You can have it.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to you. I'm not even going to let you steal it.
I love that.
But that's the truth. And so what are we afraid of? And then what's really interesting, and I call it reviewing the tape, right? So where you have rough draft moves, the flip side to that is, okay, what happened? What went well? What went wrong?
Yep.
Let's eliminate the stuff that went wrong, and let's repeat the stuff that went well. That's why making cold calls sometimes, at least as long as you have some sort of a strategy and a plan to help yourself succeed with it, there's always something you can take. You need the reps. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's important. And I love the concept that you just outlined there. I want to take us back just a couple of seconds, though, because of something very, very powerful that you said. Comfort is poisonous to success. Mm-hmm. So I would agree. One of the things, though, that I think is worth mentioning, and I'm curious in your take of it, is if comfort is poisonous to success, then why are we working so hard in the first place?
You know what? That's a great question. And I coined something else called the default cycle. I think I wrote about it at certain portions of the book. It's kind of like, we start creating success because we have the urgency. We want to produce the comfort, right? Like, we're like, let's work hard so we can be comfortable. And it's a dangerous cycle that we all go through, which is, and I've done it. I'm a culprit of it. I see it all the time.
We all are. No question. That's one. I'm really interested in your take. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But
No.
It's
put me on the spot. Punch me around. I'm serious. I can take it. I love being on the spot. So anyways, we're at a sense of urgency. We're broke. We're miserable. So we start making all these moves aggressively. We have urgency. And then what happens is once people start gaining success, they sit back, they celebrate. Now, I'm not against celebration, not against any of that. Celebration is very healthy. But what happens is a lot of times we over celebrate and we get to that point. We're like, oh my God, we're comfortable now. And then we cool off. And then what happens is we start taking that dive. And then all of a sudden we get to a point where we're back where we started and we're so urgent and, oh my God, the comfort's gone. I'm miserable. I better make moves. And then we go, it's like a roller coaster. And we always like revert back to the default. And it's kind of a dangerous place to be in. So I'm saying you just can't get too comfortable. Like, always have growth in mind. I believe growth is like happiness. Like, no matter where you are, like when you're growing, you just feel great. Okay. And I think that there's just too many people that get too comfortable too quickly. I mean, I teach people real estate entrepreneurship from nothing. They go from zero to all of a sudden they make $100,000 in their first 6 months and they go out and like buy a $5,000 Rolex. And I just think comfort really suffocates your progress. Poisonous to success. Another way of saying it is getting too comfortable will truly suffocate your progress. And again, it goes back to primitive wiring. Like, we only do what we have to do. And if we have $100K in the bank, we don't have to necessarily get up and work. And that's where it's tough because the urgency lessens, and that's why you should always have new heights. And I really believe in always, just projecting out. Like, I love the journey. I'm obsessed with the growth journey. And I think that's where the healthiest and most successful entrepreneurs, that's the like state they stay in. They're not like, I'm there. There is no there. There's no THERE. It doesn't exist.
Right. And you talk about the journey. And what you kind of said there without using these particular words is make growth your comfort zone. So if you're comfortable when you're growing, then that's seeking the comfort is going to be seeking that growth, and then you'll kind of trick the system a little bit because your comfort
Bingo.
is right, in line with what you're supposed to be doing. Because that
Yes.
you're exactly right. I mean, you get there, all right, I'm successful. I've got the cars, I've got the house, I've got all this, and then you get it, and then you're like, now what? Well, now I got to
Right.
pay for it. So what
Yeah.
you did was created a level of discomfort for yourself to where you got to get back out there and hustle.
Yeah.
And we all have our limits, right? There is, there's a limit to what we're able to do. There's a limit to how many 90-hour work weeks can you have in a row without taking some kind of downtime, or at least creating some headspace for yourself, and keeping in mind what your why is, which is what we're going to get to here in a minute. And that's one of the reasons I like the question is, what's it all for? I mean, what is your why, Nick?
My why, well, first of all, I am very blessed to find my true vocation at a very young age. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid. So my why is financial independence, to enjoy as much life as I can for me and my family, because time is a finite resource, and there's no wealth that can beat it. What I will say though is you can purchase your present and future time, can't purchase the past. And I think that's where most people's heads dwell, which is unfortunate, but understand wherever that is fine. You can purchase with cash money, real money. I say if you want to go to lunch with your dad next Tuesday at 11 a.m., you need money for that, not to pay for the lunch, to pay for your time to be there, because either you're listening to a boss tell you what to do at 11 a.m. or you get to go to lunch with your dad. So it's financial freedom is my true why, because time is short. I love spending time with family, but I also love being an entrepreneur. And again, I found it's my hobby. It's my outlet. I don't do a lot of business. I'm like a true entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I love business. I'm not stuck on real estate. I mean, I wrote, I'm writing books. I've evolved, and I just love the chess game of entrepreneurship. So that's part of my why as well. I love being an entrepreneur. And if you don't love what you're doing, you should really think about migrating to something that you do love doing. But, a lot of people listening, I love sales. I've been selling since I was a kid. I love sales. I think it's a beautiful place to be. So my why is I love doing what I'm doing. Now I'm at a point where I'm helping people. I love getting emails and snaps and Instagram messages saying, Nick, because of what you're saying and doing and help and teaching, my life has changed. I truly enjoy that I like receiving that kind of feedback. So there's a couple whys. I don't just have this singular why. And I do believe financial independence, there's a happiness pie. For me, my belief is financial independence plays a big part of it. Because when you can wake up and do what you want, when you want, how you want, with whoever you want, you are just going to be a happier person. You can't purchase diseases away. You can't purchase loved ones to come back from the dead. I get it. There's certain things that are going to make you miserable no matter what. But living life on your own terms with your own stake in the ground just is going to make you a happier person. I just see it hard to debate that. Money does do certain things that are going to make you happier. And that's why I really am obsessed with helping people get to financial independence.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneur's mantra, right? I mean, that's why we all get up and do what we do, is for that freedom to make the choice.
Yep.
And to do it on your own terms.
Choice. You have to purchase choices.
Yeah.
You have to buy that choice with real money. Otherwise, someone's making the choice for you. If you want to make the choice, rack up some money quickly.
Yeah.
And you can get rid of your boss and do what you want.
Yeah. So why is it that we all play small? Why do we not go for the things that you have obviously been wired to go for since you were a teenager?
That's a great question, and I got a great answer for you.
I'm sure you do.
It actually, I refer back to chapter 2 of my book, which is Success is Taught Out of Us. I believe this with my mind, body, and soul. Okay. Look, and this goes back to raw human nature, babies, toddlers. I have 3 kids. I don't know if you guys have kids, but I love watching this raw human nature. They stand up, they fall down. They stand up, they fall down. They'll stand up 1,000 times because they're going to walk. They see the thing on the counter. They can't reach it. They stack something. They fall. Wait a minute. If I stack 2 things, I get it. Resilience, persistence, and getting what we want is wired in our actual DNA as humans, okay? The reason people think small, play small, start extinguishing some of their bigger goals because they just feel like they're out of reach is because success is taught out of us by external people, events, circumstances, school structures. That's dangerous. Stay away from that. That's scary. And I have examples in my book, but what happens is when the mind associates enough pain with approaching something, eventually the brain, and this is just like neuroscience, this isn't like my opinion, the brain starts creating a U-turn pathway, like let's go away from that, like automatic. Like the brain always takes the path of least resistance. It's literally like physiologically how it works. I'm obsessed with neuroscience, by the way. I absolutely love it, and I'm so compelled and fascinated by it. So when the brain says approaching that, which we'll call that playing big, and then all of a sudden people come in and teachers and professors, that's not safe, that's miserable, you could go bankrupt, no, that's the worst investment in the world, or, you know, those ideas don't work, or you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. What happens is eventually that brain is going to say that equals pain, that equals pain, that equals pain. And that U-turn will, instead of being a rough path that you like have to think about, maybe I should turn around. Eventually you just turn around without conscious thinking. And to me, that's very scary, very scary, very scary. So that's why people think small. It's slowly been extinguished by all those external life events, you know, and it turns into a subconscious thing. There's two parts to my book. One is, let me wake you up to all the subconscious conditioning, because we're all of us are the person we are at this moment because of prior conditioning. I want you to get to consciously conditioning your mind. And that's a lot of what I talk about. But if you don't know you're being conditioned subconsciously by all these events, someone listening is raising their hand saying, I do think small. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. I just told you why. And I, go about it in depth in the book, but it's because of all these things you may not even have known about. But now that you know, it's going to start being your fault. Now that you're woken up to it, now it's your fault. Yeah. I can't blame you if you came from an abusive this, that. Like, I get it. People go through stuff in life. But once you read this, it slaps you in the face. And now you're like, oh my God, that is why, and then it's your fault if you don't change consciously. And I'm not saying it's easy, but no huge conscious change is easy, but it's worth it. And that's why people think small. It's been extinguished by all their life events. It's taught out of us. It's taught out of us, like literally taught out of us to play small because it's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've written about this. I've spoken about this. I'm exactly on the same page with you in that regard, that success is intuitive. Selling is intuitive. Asking for things and getting the things that we want is intuitive. We know how to do that, but especially as it relates to sales, we're looking for some script or playbook to kind of show us the right way because, now there's money involved. There's got to be some specific way I'm supposed to do it. And you're right. I mean, I'm just kind of nodding my head over here as you're talking about babies reaching for things or toddlers, learning to crawl or learning to walk, like, fall down 9 times, get up 10. I mean, that's the whole thing. So,
I love what you said about it being intuitive though.
It is.
It's totally intuitive. And I like how you put that, like it's success and like sales is intuitive. And I really like how you said that because it brought up this story about this guy. It's an unbelievable story. He took a box of laptops to Ethiopia. Okay. Have you heard this story?
I don't think so.
He took a box of laptops, brand new laptops, sealed up in a box to Ethiopia, to these kids that have never even seen the written word on paper. Like, okay, so not even pen and paper. They've never seen a book. They've never seen a pen that writes ink on paper. They put the box of laptops in front of these kids and just walked away. It was sealed with tape. They walked away. And I don't know where I heard this from, but I'd actually like to find the source because it's unbelievable how intuitive humans are. They came back something like 2 weeks later. These kids opened the box, figured out how to turn on a laptop. Now, again, you got to remember what I just said about who these people are, and started like making pictures and like editing videos and whatever, something bananas. Okay. And that struck me as soon as you said success is intuitive. And going back to salesmanship is intuitive. Like you just said, you can read nothing. You could be in the jungle. Okay. For who knows how long. And someone picks you up and puts you in a cubicle and says, sell stuff. And I guarantee without one script or one piece of training, this is where rough draft moves come in play. You might speak nothing of sales on that first call, but when you start reps, like you said, when you make that like 150th, 200 call, you're going to be selling stuff. I think the written word and books and podcasts shortcut learning curves. I love that about what's the content that's out there. It shortcuts it, but it is very intuitive. And I mean, I see it the same way you do. It's very intuitive.
So, Nick, I know you're an author and you kind of absorb a lot of additional material on a daily basis. Do you have a book or a thought leader that you look to on a regular basis or that you consider kind of critical to your success?
I've read a lot of books in the past. I got to admit, I don't do as much like reading as that anymore. I'm really trying to focus on producing content as a byproduct of my actions. You know, I actually have a reality show called In the Life, which is me being recorded out there doing my deals, et cetera. But an author I like is Robert Greene. I have to say I'm a fan of his. I do like his books, like The 48 Laws of Power was a very inspiring book to me because I love like higher mental strategy. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of what I write about, just playing the game of chess. You know, like Mastery was a great book, but 48 Laws of Power was probably one of my favorite books. It just explains like just a higher mental plane. Yeah. A way to operate almost like on a higher conscious level. And that really is intriguing to me. I'm obsessed with like the brain and neuroscience. I mean, I think we're still at the like frontier phase of that part of our human biology. We really don't know anything about the brain. And that's always exciting to gather new info about that. We know nothing. It's like the universe. The brain does things we genuinely don't have a clue about. And that's cool. So that's the kind of stuff I like reading and, you know, studying.
Excellent. Yeah. And it's absolutely true that one action or thought begets the next action or thought. Yeah. And so you do get into ruts and you have to work consistently to get yourself out of them. And we talk a lot about the mental power of selling and what you have to do to make sure you get into that correct mindset.
Even visualizing. I love like visualizing that you're going to close that dude on the other line is just going to enhance your ability to close that dude on the other line. Like if you think, like, period. I mean, we all know like certain analogies, like, you know, the piano recital or the piano practice. One guy practiced on a piano. One guy went through he visualized himself practicing on the piano. And after like 3 weeks of that, the guy who visualized was playing the song almost identically to the guy who played it on the keys. Like he imagined the notes and everything else. Like we just don't know what the brain's capable of. And I think, you know, more people need to take advantage. But if you visualize closing deals, you close deals. You visualize closing sales, you close sales. You walk in with confidence. Selling is confidence. The other person, if you sound confident, you're just going to make more sales. And when you make more sales, it actually makes you more confident and the exponential spiral keeps going upwards. But start by visualizing. Even though you're a total newbie, you've never made a single call. Pretend you're the champion. You know, and I love things like in Boiler Room and Glengarry, Glenn Ross, you see how they, you know, just act as if. I mean, it's true. Act as if you own the joint. People will respond in a positive way. It's that simple.
The book is called Success from Scratch, Mental Strategies for Success in a Survival of the Fittest Environment. It is available right now. Go buy it. I'm telling you right now, go buy it. Buy it before you even rate this podcast, because I know you've been listening for 34 episodes, 35 episodes now, Christie. And we need some more people to tell us that they like us, or tell us that you don't like us. Just get out and act after you buy Nick's book. Nick, how can people get a hold of you?
I appreciate the shout out, Jeff. So yeah, people, you know, if you go to successfromscratch.net, you actually have the opportunity to get massive amounts of bonuses with buying more than one book. So check that out. If you like real estate, I can show you how to make money from scratch in real estate as an entrepreneur without even buying homes. And that's at alphahomeflipping.com. And then I have I just want to mention 2 social channels because I run a reality show to let you know you're listening to a true doer and practitioner in business. A lot of people just preach online because they've figured out how to like game SEO or whatever. And they know how to like pretend that they do business. In the life, I have a videographer who follows me around as I act as an entrepreneur, like in real time on youtube.com/Nick Ruiz Entrepreneur. And I'm sure you'll link this, and facebook.com/Alpha Home Flipping. It's called In the Life. But, you know, that's really where you can get a hold of me at those, the 2 websites I said, and then those 2 social channels. But again, I am giving away insane bonuses temporarily for people who buy more than one book, and that's at successfromscratch.net. This book will open your eyes. Like, you're just going to have, like, I had someone randomly write a review yesterday who was like, I usually highlight important points in a book. But he goes, I can't even do that here because I run out of ink. Like literally, I poured everything into this. It's nothing you've read before. This book is not what you've read before. It's not the success books you've read in the past. It's just not. This goes in a completely different direction that might catch you off guard a little bit because it's not what you're expecting. Seriously.
Good.
We like that. We like to be surprised.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
So thank you, guys.
Nick, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it. We hope that you'll let the book get some momentum over the next couple of months and maybe come back and stop in, tell us how things are going.
I'd love to. Christie, Jeff, I really appreciate it. This is a beautiful opportunity. I thank you for having me on. Honestly, it was fun. Great conversation. You guys inspired me with some miscellaneous quotes, and it was fun.
Excellent.
Good. Thanks for being here. So, Christie, it sounds like Nick knows his why.
That's right. Because when you know your why,
your hows and your whats get much better. Thanks for being here, everybody.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening to us on the Why in the Buy podcast. If you like us, tell us. Send us a message at the Why in the Buy on Twitter, or leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you got this podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Talk to you next week. How about the music on this podcast? We call them our house band. They call themselves Haskins, and they're based out of Plymouth, Michigan. If you want to hear more from them, go to haskinsmusic.com and check them out.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.